Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Giles Gibson. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. WikiLeaks criticises the UK government for approving the extradition of Julian Assange to the US and vows to appeal the decision. The European Commission recommends war-torn Ukraine be formally named a candidate to join the EU, the first step on a long road to joining the bloc. France says it has not received any natural gas from Russia via pipeline since the 15th of June. While Italy's supply is cut for a third day as Russia's Gazprom squeezes Europe. Global markets slumped on Thursday as interest rate hikes by central banks fanned fears of a worldwide recession. And French officials urge caution as a record pre-summer heatwave spreads across the country from Spain, where authorities are fighting forest fires on the 6th day of sweltering temperatures. We start off with some news which has broken here in the UK over the last few hours, and British Interior Minister Priti Patel has approved the extradition of Julian Assange, bringing his long-running legal saga one step closer to a potential end. Assange can now appeal to the High Court in London. Even if the High Court rejects his appeal, Assange could also take his challenge to the UK Supreme Court, but if he is unsuccessful there as well, he must be extradited to the US within 28 days. Julian Assange founded WikiLeaks back in 2006, creating an internet-based dead letter drop website, which basically allows people to leak classified or sensitive information. In April 2010, a leaked video from a US helicopter emerged on WikiLeaks. The video showing an airstrike by the US military which killed civilians in the Iraqi capital Baghdad. That same year, about 90,000 documents carrying US military reports on the Afghanistan war were released by WikiLeaks. Then, in October, 400,000 classified military files on the war in Iraq were also made public. That was followed by the release of thousands of US diplomatic cables, including candid views on foreign leaders and blunt assessments of security threats. Then, in 2012, a UK court ruled that Assange could be extradited to Sweden to face questions over a rape accusation, which he strenuously denied. So the WikiLeaks founder took refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy in London after left-wing President Rafael Correa granted him asylum. But things changed in 2019 when Ecuador revoked his citizenship on the 10th of April, and then the very next day UK police detained him and he was forced to leave the embassy. Now, in January of last year, a London court blocked his extradition, but in April that decision was overturned, and now Interior Minister Priti Patel has also approved the extradition request from the United States. Currently, the WikiLeaks founder is still behind bars here in the UK. The US Justice Department has charged him with violating the US Espionage Act in relation to the release of military and diplomatic files back in 2010. He is facing 18 charges in total, 17 of which fall under this act. And if convicted on all of those charges, he faces up to 175 years in prison. Let's stay in the UK now, and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is being urged not to scrap the ethics advisor role at number 10 Downing Street. This comes after the last ethics advisor, Christopher Geit's resignation. In a letter explaining why he was stepping down as Johnson's ethics advisor, Geit said that he was put in an impossible situation because of a proposed violation of the ministerial code, where he was asked to advise on a plan to maintain tariffs on Chinese steel in a way which would breach UK obligations under the World Trade Organization or the WTO. And Downing Street has now announced that it could scrap the current role of the Prime Minister's ethics advisor altogether. That's subject to undertaking a review. In a statement, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's official spokesperson said that Johnson will not immediately start looking for a replacement for Geit, but would instead review the system of enforcing the ministerial code, which includes an overarching duty for ministers to comply with the law. Now, Lord Geit is the second ethics advisor to quit in less than 2 years. His predecessor, Alex Allen, resigned back in 2020 after UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson ignored his findings into allegations of bullying by UK Home Secretary Priti Patel. The European Commission has recommended the EU designate Ukraine and Moldova as candidates to join the bloc, while Georgia will have to meet certain conditions before it can get that same status.
Let me start with Ukraine. The Commission recommends to the Council, first, that Ukraine is given European perspective, and second, that Ukraine is given candidate status. This is, of course, on the understanding that the country will carry out a number of further important reforms.
However, there is opposition from some EU countries, including the Netherlands and Denmark, which do not support the inclusion of more nations into the bloc. Ukraine won the backing of France, Germany, Italy and Romania on Thursday. The recommendation paves the way for EU leaders to sign off on it at a summit which is taking place next week in Brussels. This comes after top European leaders visited Kiev on Thursday and promised to back Ukraine's membership bid. French President Emmanuel Macron, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi and Romania's President Klaus Iohannis met with the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky and pledged their support for Kiev.
Ukraine is not dead. Neither the glory nor the freedom of Ukraine is dead. You can count on the Brotherhood of Europe to make sure that Ukraine remains free.
A questo proposito,
that the most important message of my visit is that Italy wants Ukraine in the European Union, and it wants Ukraine to have candidate status and will support this position at the next European Council. We cannot wait. We cannot delay this process.
Let's keep our focus on the conflict in Ukraine now. And the head of the UK's armed forces says that Russia has strategically lost the war in Ukraine and is now a diminished power. Admiral Sir Tony Radakin made the comments while speaking to a UK-based news agency, saying Moscow is suffering heavy losses and has lost a significant portion of its troops for tiny gains. Admiral Radakin also said that Russia will never be able to take over Ukraine entirely. Now, since the war in Ukraine began in late February, both sides have incurred heavy losses. The UK's armed forces chief said, and I quote here, President Putin has used about 25% of his army's power to gain a tiny amount of territory and 50,000 people either dead or injured. Russia is failing. Now, in the last few days, Russia has focused all of its air power in the Donbass. That's a region in the east of Ukraine. But its recent gains have come at a really significant cost as the war enters its fifth month. Plus, by launching an attack on its neighbour Ukraine, Russia has pushed historically neutral countries into the arms of NATO. Sweden and Finland are now applying for membership in the Western military alliance.
So then I ask the media to leave the room.
Let's move on to Asia now, and in North Korea, which is battling chronic food shortages amid a wave of COVID-19 infections. Pyongyang reported an outbreak of an unidentified intestinal epidemic in a farming region on Thursday. Here's some more details on that story.
North Korea on Thursday announced a new infectious disease outbreak, even as the country battles to contain its first wave of COVID-19. Pyongyang has not identified the new infection, but South Korean officials and experts have said it could be cholera or typhoid spreading in the water supply. So far, no details on how many people have been infected. According to North Korean state media, leader Kim Jong-un has sent medicine to help those suffering from the, quote, acute enteric epidemic. Enteric meaning to do with the gastrointestinal system. The outbreak is spreading in a key agricultural region, and that has raised concerns it could make an already dire food shortage even worse. South Korea said it was monitoring the situation. According to one official, Seoul has signaled its willingness to help out in the case of any disease outbreak, including a proposal to send COVID-19 vaccines. But so far, Pyongyang has remained unresponsive. North Korea does not identify COVID-19 cases as such, apparently due to a lack of testing kits. Instead, it gives a daily figure for the number of fever patients. That figure was more than 26,000 on Thursday, bringing the total number of such cases to more than 4.5 million.
Let's move on to some business news now. And SpaceX has fired, reportedly, employees who helped to write and distribute an open letter criticising CEO Elon Musk's behaviour. According to these reports, the spacecraft engineering company's president, Gwynne Shotwell, sent an email in which she said that the firm had investigated and terminated a number of employees involved with that letter. It is unclear at this stage how many employees were actually fired. Earlier, a group of SpaceX employees described Musk as a distraction and an embarrassment in an internal letter that they sent to executives. They also listed out 3 demands in this letter. Now, the first one was that SpaceX must separate itself from Musk's personal brand. The second one was that the company should hold all leadership equally accountable for making SpaceX a great place to work for everyone. And lastly, they demanded that they should define and uniformly respond to all forms of unacceptable behaviour in the company. Now, as tensions continue to brew over the future of the tech giant Twitter, Tesla CEO Elon Musk is trying to address concerns amongst the company's employees. The tech mogul gave a special address to Twitter employees on Thursday to pitch his vision and his ideas for the future of the company once he takes over. Take a look.
Elon Musk delivered his first ever address to Twitter employees, but offered few new details about his $44 billion planned takeover of the social media company, including when it will close. Instead, the billionaire, according to a source, appeared in a video call Thursday from what looked like a kitchen and engaged in a freewheeling Q&A in which he mused on the existence of aliens and other space civilizations and said that Twitter should help, quote, civilization and consciousness. The few specifics Musk did give about the company were focused on possibly cutting jobs, but that anyone who is a, quote, significant contributor should have nothing to worry about. Musk also told Twitter staffers he wants to raise the platform's user numbers from 229 million to at least 1 billion people, and said advertising would remain important despite previously saying he believes Twitter should not show ads. In audio of the meeting heard by Reuters, Musk said, quote, I'm not against advertising. I would probably talk to the advertisers and say, like, hey, let's just make sure the ads are as entertaining as possible. His comments appeared to do little to appease employees who took to an internal Slack channel in droves during the session, posting memes and complaining that Musk was not providing useful answers on his vision for the business and employee compensation. The impending takeover of Twitter has been met with widespread skepticism and concern among the San Francisco-based company's employees, some of whom have worried Musk will relax rules on certain content. The billionaire told Twitter staff he believed users should be allowed to say pretty outrageous things on the site as long as the content is not illegal.
Let's stay with some tech news now, and the EU is stepping up its fight against the spread of disinformation on social media. Proposed updates to the Digital Services Act, or DSA, were presented on Thursday. Now, under the changes, companies would have to be more vigilant about harmful content on their platforms, and they would be held responsible for the societal effects of their content. One of the main innovations in the code is cutting off advertising revenue from sites spreading disinformation. So if a company is caught spreading harmful or illegal content, it could be hit with fines of up to 6% of its annual global turnover. The EU's new code of practice has up to 40 commitments, along with indicators to measure how well companies are meeting their requirements. Now, while the previous rules relied on self-regulation, the new code would hold media platforms to binding measures set out in the bloc's DSA. Officials expect at least 30 bodies to sign up, including big players such as Facebook and Twitter and Microsoft. The signatories will also have to give users tools to report false information and will need to cooperate with fact-checkers in all of the official languages of the European Union. Now, although the rules only apply within the European Union's borders, compliance with the regulations could also force companies to rework their entire internal policies, and the DSA could also push other countries into enacting similar legislation of their own. Now, London is known around the world for its pubs, and they're certainly going to be busy later on with this heatwave that's currently sweeping the UK. But an artist is trying to draw all 3,500 pubs that are in the British capital. She says it's an ambitious goal, but it's not impossible. Take a look.
I think I said something flippantly online, like, oh, I might as well be drawing every pub in London. And then, because I was drawing so many pubs, and then I sort of looked into it and thought, well, maybe I should just have a go. Kind of without realising how many pubs there were. I knew there'd be a lot. I'm not sure I kind of calculated how long it would take me. But yeah, 3,500 pubs. It sort of was a project or a fixation that started through lockdown. So I kind of put the word out and said, you know, I'm opening up my commissions. I know a lot of people haven't lost their job. Maybe people would still like to buy some artwork. And it kind of went a little bit crazy. And I realised I mostly got commissions of pubs. And I think at the time it kind of made sense because pubs were closed. I was honestly directed by sort of my missing the pub, basically. That's where I socialise, and so obviously not only losing my job, losing my social life and not seeing my friends had become quite apparent. I decided to tell people about it in a very sort of tongue-in-cheek way, like quite a humorous way. Kind of, you know, am I crazy for doing this? There's so many, this is going to take me 10 plus years. Like kind of silly, short, jokey videos, which are very popular on TikTok.
How many of those did you take? I took 9. Yeah, I did, I think, slightly overcommit.
And then the response to it was like overwhelmingly positive, and it was, please draw this pub, please draw this pub, please draw this pub. And I've just used that as a jumping off point since to let it direct me to actually which pubs I'm going to draw.
Which pencils are you using?
I'm actually using F, which is pretty hard.
It's an F?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I like to use quite a hard pencil. They feel so quintessentially British that whether you're a pub person or not, I think, yeah, they're just like, I don't know, they're great buildings to look at or be in. And I think that kind of emotional attachment to them is why people want a picture of their pub at home. So far, every pub I've drawn in situ, I've had like really great reactions which you just can't get at home on your own. So yeah, I think my preference is to draw in front of the pub, but if I was to draw all 3,500 pubs in front of the pub, I think it would probably add on another few years to the project. So having a kind of mixture of doing some at home and some in front of the pub at the moment is working. I think it just took less than 3 hours, 2.5 hours. It's funny, there's so many people around, but actually it felt like quite a peaceful drawing. Someone commented on one of my videos. Basically, they said that their grandfather was Norman, and this was originally called Norman's Coach and Horses, and I think he was the landlord. I honestly think if I was to stay at the same rate I'm going and have to sort of juggle work and things like that, I think it could probably take me about 40 to 50 years.
She's still got a long way to go, but an ambitious goal there. Let's move on to another story now. And tourists are flocking to a new attraction in Georgia in the Caucasus, a 240-metre glass bridge that spans the Dashbashi Canyon. The bridge is now officially open 3 years after construction began. Take a look.
Set between a gorge in Georgia's Dashbashi, this diamond-shaped bridge recently opened in Salka. The bridge is nestled in a nature reserve and is placed in the middle of high cliffs. It is filled with luscious green slopes and raw natural beauty with a modern high-tech construction, which makes it the perfect spot to promote eco-tourism. The construction of this bridge began in 2019 with an investment of $39 million by an Israeli company called Casland. And after 3 years, the bridge is now open to visitors.
It's one of the most spectacular resorts that we've ever built. I mean, as part of the Easter Group, with a great partnership of the Georgians, Israelis, and it's coming for the benefit of tourists that will come from all over corners of the world. We brought in here the beauty of, as I said, the nature and the beauty of the Georgian people together for the benefit of world tourism, and we hope that plenty of people will come, touch, smell, and enjoy that piece of beauty that is here for the good and the better of the people.
This diamond bridge is important from a tourism perspective, as Salka is relatively unknown on the tourist trail. With its eye-catching opening, the bridge is expected to attract more visitors to this part of the Caucasus, thereby increasing its visibility on the world's tourism map.
This project is the best example of how we managed to preserve the authenticity of nature. And at the same time, we offer visitors a different and extreme ecotourism area. And of course, it's very secure.
In addition to the glass bridge, the Casland complex includes paths to the canyon, along with recreational activities like bike zip lines, giant swings and waterfalls.
It's amazing and crazy in the same time. It's like strong. It's strong. Like it's not going to fall, and you feel the bike. You feel this here. You feel everything, and when you're looking down, it's. I don't know what to say. It's amazing.
The place has cottages and hotels, making it an ideal vacation spot, particularly for kids and bloggers.
I have to say it's one of the most amazing places I've ever seen in the world. And as a travel blogger, I travel a lot. And the Diamond Bridge I think it will be the most Instagrammable place. It will be all over the internet.
Georgia is known for building hypermodern structures. And this unique bridge, which is 200 meters above ground, is expected to give a boost to tourism, particularly eco-tourism. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
You just have to make sure you don't look down too much. Well, that's all we've got time for today. WION Live Broadcast will be back on Monday, but stay tuned to WION for all the latest updates on global news. Thanks for watching.
There are many other...